This video of the Loockerman Hall at Delaware State University will focus on the condition of the existing windows. Starting with the east elevation, the all-wood construction is currently struggling with the environmental conditions and the maintenance effort that's been required over time. And what you'll see is that the sills are the location where we have the most severe damage. On the interior, you can see the bottom rails as well as the sashes are starting to feel the pain and suffering from the environmental conditions and are resulting in failure of the window systems. Not to mention the moisture that's coming into the building as well. As a matter of fact, you can see below the window sills, we're actually struggling with severe damage to the drywall and or plaster in the facility. You can see in this condition, the muntins are really starting to wear and erode away with the presence of moisture that the building's faced with. And again, you can see the sash and the bottom rail here are separated. And again, as I mentioned, the muntins are actually eroding away. This is very critical with the fact that they're actually holding the glass in place. Again, it is a single pane, so the amount of thermal loss here is also causing a lot of strain on the university to maintain the building. You can see here that this deterioration has really started to become severe on the interior and even worse on the exterior, as you can see in the image in the background. In this particular case, you can actually see daylight between the bottom rail and the window sash. This is one of the conditions that we see frequent. In this particular location, you can see the amount of damage that's been caused from the moisture. And moving on to the first floor of the east elevation, we see in this location that the building stool has actually started to decay to the point where it's crumbled apart, really allowing moisture to work its way all along the bottom of this stool. And you can see the moisture has worked its way up into the bottom rail and into the muntins in that location. And you can see the severity of the damage to the bottom rail and also to the hardware that's holding the shutters in place. You can really see the extent of that damage that the moisture has caused. Even working its way up into the upper parts of the window. You can see that upper sash is starting to wear as well. And all these openings are just opportunities for moisture and insects to really get themselves into the building and cause damage. And on the interior, you can really see how that damage from the exterior has worked its way inside. Again, the single pane glass is not helping. Really allows that moisture to develop on the face of the window. And has wreaked havoc on all pieces of the window, as a matter of fact. This location, you can see how those muntins are really, the paint's flaking off, but underneath you can see the wood itself has really started to erode away, and ultimately that glass is really being held in with those muntins. So it's going to become critical very soon to maintain those. And here we work our way to the north elevation. We're going to start by taking a look at the attic windows. And again, the head conditions are in need of some maintenance, but they're not damaged, but the sills and stools of the window. Here you can see in the attic what that damage is doing, ultimately building wide. You can see that plaster is just starting to eat itself away. And sooner than later we're going to end up with that moisture making its way to the floor below, causing further damage. And onto the second floor on this north elevation. Again, you can see how the moisture is making its way into the interior of the space, which is our biggest concern, and ultimately causing damage to the plaster below. You can see here how this has started to allow the moisture to run down the face of the wall, really destroying that plaster, and this is an ongoing maintenance difficulty that we face as we're trying to deal with this. Ultimately, what we don't want to do is to have this plaster become a problem building wide. You can see just the amount of moisture that runs down the face of this wall often. And working our way to the first floor on the north elevation. You can see here is one stool that's in very, very severe condition and beyond repair. Now we're going to work our way in a little closer. And you can really see here just how devastating the conditions have been to these wood windows. Again, I think the solution going back would probably not be a wood product. Our particular area is faced with high humidity. And next we'll move on to the west elevation. Starting on the second floor, again we see the amount of damage on the exterior stools, and ultimately here we're going to see on the interior again what's occurring. You can see how that damage is really spread not just in the stool but also to all the components of the wood. And here in this particular first floor window, you can see that the exterior stool has just been destroyed with the moisture, and you can see how that started to separate the pieces on the interior of the building as well. And again, we're faced with this issue with the plaster starting to absorb the water and blow out here all along the bottom of the trim underneath the windowsill. Again, the bottom rail is really starting to separate from the sashes here on the bottom section of the double hung window. And again, just the extent of the damage on the muntins that's super critical to holding in that thermal value to the window. And lastly, we're going to go to the south elevation. It was a little difficult to get in and view these from the exterior because of the tree being so close. But as we zoom in here, you're going to see that we have a significant amount of damage occurring again on the window stool, and it's just really started to wreak havoc on not just the stool but also the the top and bottom rails on both sections of the double hung window here. And you can just see at the bottom, right underneath the sill in the interior, how again, you're starting to see that damage that's caused from the moisture working its way on the interior. See that historic glass panels. Those are at risk, obviously, with the muntin damage that we've been seeing. Again, here you can really start to see how the sealant that once held that glazing in place is gone, and really we're starting to see the damage on these muntins building wide. And moving on to the first floor of this elevation, again, we can see here just the amount of damage that's taken place. Getting a little closer look here at how bad the damage to some of these locations are on the muntins. This particular location, once we get zoomed in here on the inset, you can see that the muntin is actually gone and the glass panels are exposed. The only thing that's there is just that separation that was there for thermal. So that piece of wood that's exposed there is all that's left to hold those glass panels in place.
In closing, the university is at a critical juncture, at a point when replacement of the windows will ensure the integrity of the facility can be maintained for years to come.